What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Will Motivation, and today we're talking about Bitcoin versus real estate.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Will Motivation, and today we're talking about my advice on the #1 way for you to get started investing in real estate.
So a lot of you guys have asked me in some of my recent videos, do I invest in Bitcoin, or have I invested in Bitcoin? Have I made any money with it? I even saw a video of a guy that actually bought a Lamborghini Huracan with Bitcoin. So no, I'm not that dude, but I did buy my Lamborghini with real estate. If this is your first time watching my channel, my name is Will Motivation. I do motivational videos utilizing wills, and most of the time it's my Lamborghini Huracan that I recently purchased. And welcome to the channel. And for those of you that are subscribed, thanks for tuning in for another video, and hopefully you'll find this video insightful or helpful, and kind of just help you understand my thinking with regard to Bitcoin and as that compares to real estate, because I'm an experienced real estate investor, but I have also invested in the stock market. I have invested in bonds. I've done mutual funds. I had a 401k when I worked in corporate America. So I've done some of your traditional investing, and then more recently, I would say in the last 6 or 7 years, I've done a lot of investing in real estate. And so real estate is my current preferred investment vehicle. So to answer some of your questions about have I invested in Bitcoin, the short answer is no, I have not yet invested in Bitcoin. Now, would I invest in Bitcoin? There's a good chance that yes, I would invest in Bitcoin, but for me, I feel like I'm gambling if I don't understand what dictates the value of Bitcoin going up versus the value of Bitcoin going down. So the reason I have not yet invested in Bitcoin is because I don't know the answer to that. And I've done a little bit of research on it. I've heard people talking about what's driving Bitcoin going up and down. But for me, I like to do my own research and know very well what I'm getting into if I'm going to invest any money in it. Because for me, like, I could invest a few $100s in it and see what happens, which I might very well do. I might invest maybe even a couple of $1,000s in Bitcoin to see what happens. But when we start talking about amounts above that, then I want to know very well what I'm getting myself into to invest in Bitcoin. So to answer that question, no, I have not yet invested in Bitcoin, but the likelihood that I will invest in it is pretty high. Now, the purpose of this video to kind of give you my thought process when I compare where I have currently invested most of my money, which is in real estate, because I could very well sell some property, take the cash out of that property and invest it in Bitcoin if I thought Bitcoin was a great investment opportunity or vehicle. So I'm still doing my research on that. But I did a little bit of research, and I'm going to share with you guys what I came up with for the pros and cons of investing in Bitcoin versus investing in real estate. And so I came up with my own list of points of evaluation. So these are basically things that I think are important when evaluating a potential investment, and then which investment vehicle is better for that particular point of evaluation. So real estate versus Bitcoin. So let's talk about the comparison of investing in money in Bitcoin versus investing money in real estate. So The first, I'm gonna start basically with, I'm gonna give Bitcoin sort of like the fair, I try to find things that I thought would be advantageous to investing in Bitcoin, and I'm gonna start with those things first. So the first thing on that list is barrier to entry. So if you're thinking about investing in something, right? So different investment vehicles have higher or lower barriers to entry. So basically, how hard is it to invest in Bitcoin versus some other investment vehicle like real estate? So if we look at that, and like I said, I haven't yet invested in Bitcoin, so I can't tell you all the steps to investing in Bitcoin, other than it does not appear to be very difficult. And you do not have to have a ton of money to invest in Bitcoin. So like, for example, if you were one of the lucky people that invested in Bitcoin years ago, you might only invest $100 or let's say $500, and now that $500 might be worth some crazy amount right now. So I'm gonna give the nod when it comes to barrier of entry, or how difficult it is to invest in Bitcoin versus real estate. I'm gonna say Bitcoin wins that comparison. So Bitcoin is easier to jump in and invest and buy some some shares of Bitcoin versus you buying a piece of real estate. Because buying a piece of real estate, and some people might argue with me and say, well, you could get a contract with somebody, own a part of a piece of real estate by signing some paper. I'm not really talking about those non-traditional things, but I'm talking about buying an actual building or house, home, some type of investment property. You gotta go through a closing. You gotta go through a title company. It's typically not a little bit of money. It's typically a lot of money. Talking about thousands of dollars. Whereas Bitcoin could have been, you could have got in with hundreds of dollars or even less. So nod goes to Bitcoin on barrier to entry. Number two thing, as far as an investment vehicle, is liquidity. So it's better, in most cases, it's considered better to be more liquid. So what do I mean by liquidity? Is basically how easy it is to access that money and utilize it or leverage it, okay? So that's your liquidity. So the most liquid thing we typically think of is cash, because you can take cash, it's sitting right there in your pocket. You can go to the store and you can trade it for some products or services, right? So cash is like the most liquid thing. But Bitcoin, compared to real estate, is definitely more liquid, because not only can you use it to purchase things now, so like some retailers accept Bitcoin as payment. You can trade Bitcoins with people overseas in other countries without paying exchange rates and banks and having middlemen and stuff like that. So Bitcoin, I'm gonna give the nod when it comes to liquidity when comparing these two investment vehicles, because with real estate is not very liquid. Like, not only is it difficult to transfer from one, not difficult, but it's more time consuming and energy intensive to transfer real estate from one person to another. So I'm definitely giving a nod in liquidity to Bitcoin, okay? So if you basically have some money you wanted to invest and you might need to get access to that money rather quickly, then Bitcoin might be the way to go, okay? And acceptance as a payment method. So I think no one will argue that Bitcoin is a little bit, I would give the nod to Bitcoin as far as an accepted payment method, because for one, the international and worldwide use of Bitcoin is way less complicated to utilize as a payment method than trading a piece of real estate, okay? So I'm gonna give acceptance as a payment method, give that nod to Bitcoin as well. And I created another category for this, for evaluating investments, and I call it, and I came up with all of these terms myself, right? Because these are the things that I would consider when investing in something and comparing it to another investment. And that is wealth discretion. So what do I mean by that? I mean, how discreet can you be owning these different things? So comparing real estate and how discreet you can be as an owner of real estate versus owning Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like the ultimate and it's a cryptocurrency, it's a digital currency. It's super discreet. Like that's one of the most popular reasons why people utilize Bitcoin is because it doesn't trace to a particular person especially as easy as a piece of real estate. Like, so for example, you could do a search on a person's name in a certain county or in a city and find out all of the real estate that's associated with their name or the name of their business. So like a lot of times when I'm talking about my real estate and the value of my real estate, that's stuff that people could look up and verify. And it's sort of like public record or public knowledge. And so in order to hide or be more discreet about the real estate you own, you would have to jump through a few hoops and it still could trace back to you. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's designed to be discreet. So I'm gonna give that nod to Bitcoin. So now, unfortunately, those were all of the criteria that Bitcoin actually won out versus real estate. And the rest of these categories, I had to give the nod to real estate, and I'll explain each of them to you. So one thing about Bitcoin that you might not typically think about, but you have to think about nowadays is theft, right? So with real estate, you don't, so I call this point of evaluation theft resistance. So basically, if you got cash, somebody could steal your cash if you're not careful with it. If you have Bitcoin, some hackers or some cyber espionage type people can hack your account and steal your Bitcoin. And I've heard of that happening to people. Whereas with real estate, it's very difficult for somebody to try to steal the title to some real estate that you own. It's not only difficult, but it's not that often that you hear of it. So it's like more or less unheard of. And it's not something that people lose sleep about, when they own real estate, is somebody stealing a piece of real estate from you. Now, you might rent your real estate out and you might get squatters in your real estate and you gotta deal with that. But as far as somebody picking up your crib and walking and putting it on a truck and rolling out with it, it doesn't happen that often. So I'm gonna give the nod to real estate under the point of evaluation of theft resistance. The other thing that's very, very important to me as an investor is usability. So basically, what do I mean by that is how can you utilize that investment? So with Bitcoin, you can buy it, hold it, and sell it, right? And so while you're holding it, you can't do anything with it but look at it, or make sure you got it. But you can't do anything until you're ready to sell it. And when you sell it, you're changing it over to some other form of currency like cash or whatever and putting it in your bank account, and then you can utilize it. But while you are holding that investment, you can't do anything with it. And cash is like that as well. But with real estate, if I invest $100,000 in real estate, while I'm holding it, I can actually leverage it. I can borrow money against it and still own the real estate. I can actually live in it. Like that's crucial. Like let's say you bought a home and as an investment, you spend $100,000, it's appreciating over time. And while you have purchased that investment, you actually live in it or you rent it out. You can do a lot of things with real estate. That's why I like it, and I give the nod and usability to real estate. And some of you guys in the comments might actually say some of the other reasons or other things that you can do with real estate. But risk aversion to market volatility. So that's another one of my points of evaluation. And what do I mean by that? Is basically how volatile is that investment type. So for Bitcoin, to me, it appears to be pretty volatile. It's going up a lot, it's going down a lot, and it's pretty unstable. Whereas real estate, depending on the market that you're in, is considered to be a pretty stable investment. And if you look at like the last 30 years, in the United States, the average, rate of return year over year is like 6 or 7% with real estate. And if you do things like flips, it could be a lot more than that. So I'm gonna give the nod in risk aversion to market volatility to real estate. Another one for me is controllability. So how you can affect the value and price of that investment. So like when you buy a piece of stock, how much control do you have over that stock going up or going down? You might not have any control over that. When you buy Bitcoin, how much control do you have over the market value of your Bitcoin going up or down? You don't really have control over that unless you were some huge media conglomerate or some huge investment banking firm or something and came out and said something against Bitcoin and maybe it affected the value of the Bitcoin. However, when you buy a piece of real estate and you own it and you control it, you can do things to affect the value of that real estate that you own. So you can do things to raise the value of the real estate and you can do things to drop the value. So for example, every time I buy a piece of real estate, I'm usually rehabbing it, making it better than it was when I bought it. So I have some control over the value or the price of that investment and how well it does. So I like that about that investment vehicle. So of course the nod goes to real estate when it comes to controllability. So the other thing about certain investments are do those investments produce cash flow? So for example, you buy some Bitcoin. Can you get a yield from that every month? Or can you get some cash back from owning that Bitcoin every month or every year? And to my knowledge, you can't do that. Maybe when you buy a whole bunch of stock, you might get dividends or whatever. You might get some payouts or something like that. But when you own real estate, you can rent it out and then you can get cash flow from that real estate while it appreciates in value. So then it increases the total ROI or return on investment every year. So that's another thing that I like about real estate. So I give the nod to real estate and cash flow from that investment. Then another category is, are there any tax benefits? So, so far from what I understand, the only tax benefit from Bitcoin is if you invested, let's say you invested 100,000 in Bitcoin when you bought it, and in that same year you sold it and you only got 80,000 back. Well, you basically took a $20,000 loss, and I think you can write that off in your taxes or something. And don't quote me on that, but you can basically write off some portion of your loss if you lost money in that Bitcoin investment. However, with real estate, there are lots of tax deductions, write-offs, depreciations that you can take that will reduce your overall tax liabilities, which is another reason why I like real estate. And it's like the most, real estate out of all investment platforms gives you the most tax write-offs. So nod goes to real estate there. And then stability and predictability. So I think most people would agree that the real estate market is the most predictable. And you could argue which one's more stable, but I'm gonna just give the nod to real estate based on my own experience and based on what I've seen. So from the time I was born and my parents having their house, I've seen the value. If you look at how much that house was worth when I was born, and my mom still has that house, to what it's worth now, it's multiples. Like it's multiples of what it was worth back when I was born. So as far as predictability, we're talking about a pretty significant time span and the value going up over that time span. However, the lifespan of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are not that long, so I wouldn't consider them to be that predictable. So that is my list of points of evaluation comparing Bitcoin to real estate. And so in my book, for my personal taste and risk appetite, I prefer to invest in real estate. And it's probably because I know more about it And based on my criteria that I just mentioned, I lean more towards real estate. However, I do believe that if you're an investor and you want to be smart, you diversify. So you should invest in different things so that if one market or one vehicle collapses, you got money in other places. So for that reason, I probably will invest some money in some cryptocurrencies, but I got to do my research and find out a little bit more about it. And when I do that research, I'll share it with you guys. So if you enjoyed this video or you found it helpful, please click like and please subscribe if you'd like to see more. And not only am I trying to drop some of these videos with knowledge about investing in real estate and things to think about if you're trying to make money, I also will be dropping some cool videos on the Lamborghini. I have the Lamborghini in the shop getting the new exhaust put on. It's gonna be pretty lit. It's gonna sound good. So I have a video of that coming soon, hopefully tomorrow or in the next couple of days. It'll definitely be this week that I'll drop a video on it. So look forward to that. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'm out. I just wanted to say thanks for watching today's video. There's a lot more to come. Hit that like button for me and subscribe to my channel. A lot of you guys have been asking me about when is my online course going to be ready. Well, I have good news for you. My online course is completed. I'll put a link in the description of this video where you can click on that link and get a 40% discount off the course. That'll be for the first 50 students. So if you're ready to take the online course that I've basically laid out everything that I know about how to invest in real estate, click the link below or just go to www.willmotivation.com/invest. And thank you guys for taking the time out to watch today's video. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.